Pacing means changing what we do, but also changing how we think. This video focuses on the second, looking at two types of mental adjustments. First, updating our expectations for ourselves, and then also changing our inner dialogue or self-talk to make it both more accurate and more positive. So I'll begin by talking about expectations. Let me introduce this topic by describing the experience of a man in our program who is bothered by being so much less productive since coming down with CFS. He said that reading about koalas provided him with a solution. According to him, koalas spend 16 to 18 hours a day in what he describes as a motionless stupor. And he wrote to his group, "In the future, I'm going to look to koalas to measure my productivity." So he found a humorous way to say that he needed an appropriate standard to compare himself with. He recognized that comparing himself to healthy people is likely to lead to guilt and depression, and koalas are much closer to the mark. So let me put that down here as adjust to current abilities, which is also sometimes called the new normal. Another person in our program has written about how she changed her ideas about rest. She said that she used to tell herself she was weak if she needed to take a rest, but now she tells herself that rest breaks, quote, "give me quality time with my husband and grandchildren." So having realistic expectations is important, standards that match your current abilities. Some people in our program refer to themselves as recovering perfectionists. One who seems to have succeeded is the woman who wrote an article we have on our site titled "Making a Not-to-Do List." She too uses humor. She wrote that she's changed her view of dust and now sees it, quote, as a substance that protects my furniture. Changing expectations is a gradual process by which you come to accept your limits and the need to adapt to a new normal. The ability to develop new expectations is based on adopting a different attitude, a particular kind of acceptance. As explained by one person with CFS, this acceptance is not resignation, but rather, quote, an acceptance of the reality of the illness and of the need to lead a different kind of life, perhaps for the rest of my life. Another part of changing expectations is working to change your ideas about how others view you. As one person told us, I let go of expecting people to respond to me in the way that I think they should. For example, I let go of expecting that people will understand my disease. So with no expectations, I feel less resentment, which leads to less stress. Colin, the koala man, uses a similar approach with his family. He gives them repeated specific reminders. He wrote to us, I have to remind them that I have limits that they do not have. I can't jump up and run away on a weekend junket. I can't get up extra early for some event, and I can't eat just anywhere on the run. So let me put a second element under expectations, which is adjust others, meaning adjust expectations about others' expectations for you. Another aspect of our thinking that I'd like to discuss is the internal dialogue we have with ourselves, often called self-talk. Self-talk is a habitual way of responding to experience, often an internal critic who can be very pessimistic. For example, if you experience a relapse, your inner voice might say something like, "You'll never get any better. Every time you try something, you fail." Sometimes the internal voice is misleading in a positive direction. When you think about doing something that will take you out of your limits, it might say something like, "Go ahead, you deserve it," ignoring the consequences that are coming afterwards. The three-step approach that I'm going to outline will show you how to change your thoughts so that they help you rather than increase your suffering. Having realistic ideas about your situation can help you pace and will reduce pain, stress, and the suffering of relapses. The approach that I'll describe is called cognitive therapy, a well-proven approach for dealing with many types of problems. You can read more about it in books. Our favorite is called Mind Over Mood, or you can learn it from counselors who specialize in this form of therapy. The first step to changing your habitual thinking is to recognize it. So let me put that down. Oops. Recognize. This is not easy to do because our thoughts are automatic, so deeply ingrained that they seem self-evident. But if you can recognize your thoughts, you gain some distance from them and remove their self-evident character. To explain this and the other two steps, I'll use the example of a woman in our program with fibromyalgia. For some time after coming down with fibro, she often experienced a mini relapse every time she cleaned her house. After a while, she identified a thought in her head at these times. When I start a task, I work until it's done. She felt compelled to finish the cleaning in spite of the cost. So the example is, she was saying to herself, work till done. The second step is to evaluate your habitual thoughts. Evaluate. Asking, what are their consequences? In this case, she saw that the thought work until done led her to overdo, resulting in pain and forced bed rest. So, in her case, the thought led to a mini relapse. Then you can ask, is there a different way to view the situation, one that would be more helpful? In this case, an option would be to break housework into several steps, stopping when symptoms worsen or even before they worsen. So an alternative is to take rest breaks. Then the last step is one in which you consider replacing your habitual thought with a new thought. So replace. Let me see if I can line that up. There we go. This person replaced the thought work until done with I rest when tired. I rest when tired. This three-step approach gives you a way to change your thoughts so that they help you rather than increasing your suffering. Having realistic ideas about your situation can help you pace and will reduce pain, stress, and the suffering of relapses.